Allie. Join me as I show you how to make these Autumn Aurora earrings. They're featuring brick stitch, a crystal cosmic ring drop, and an Athenacast form. If you are a subscriber to our kit box, this kit is in your box this month. If you want to get more information or get a list of materials, go ahead and look below the video in the description. We'll get a link back to our website. Get out your kit packet and let's get started on these fun brick stitch earrings. So to get started on our earring, what you're going to need are some Delica 11-0 seed beads. I have a ring here. My ring is a perfect form in 20 millimeter, and I have a medium Vitrail 14 millimeter cosmic ring. You don't have to hang the ring down. You can just do the open form, or you can hang something else down. So a lot of variety. You will need a wire guard and an ear wire as well. I'm using black thread, so I don't see as much of it around the frame. We're actually kind of covering it. And I'm using size 6 of the black. You can use gray or black, doesn't matter. And we are going to tie on to the form. I have about 4 feet of thread that I'm working with. I'm going to tie 2 knots, 1 and 2. We're going to begin with brick stitch. So to do brick stitch, you're going to start out with 2 beads getting added onto your form. I kind of pinch it in my left hand. I put on my 2 beads on my needle, and I sew the needle and thread through the form. As I sew through the form, I try to keep the beads to the exterior, since that's where they need to be, to the exterior of the form. From here, let's bring it in a little closer. We're going to go back through bead number 2. So I'm going to go through bead number 2 toward bead number 1. And what that's going to do is set bead number 2 straight up and down so the hole sits vertical. Bead number 1 we'll worry about as we come back around to the close. From here, we're going to add 1 bead on at a time. I add 1 bead on. I sew underneath the form, through to the front of the form, take my needle and thread through the bead, and up to the top. Sit that bead nice and tight right next to the last one. From here again, add a bead. So under the form, and see how I kind of pinch my finger there, needle goes under the form and through and out the middle. If the bead drops into the form, just kind of push it towards the top. Push that bead over, take your needle and thread back through the bead towards the top, and let it fall down. We're going to continue this for 37 beads to get the whole way around, and then we're going to add our wire guard right away and some of our drop as well too. So 37 more beads, or 37 total beads. So what do I've got? I've got 5. 32 more beads to go, putting those Delicas on. Once you have the 37 Delica beads around the edge, we are actually going to take this opportunity to add our wire guard, which I like that it's part of the project. If you'd rather complete this circle, you can totally do that, and you're just going to join the 2 together. We're also going to use this opportunity to go ahead and hang down our first strand of our little dangle crystal from the middle there. So coming out the top here, I have my wire guard. Hiding from me. I'm going to go up through the wire guard, back down through the wire guard, and that first bead that we added to our brick stitch here, when we add 2 at a time, we're going to go back down through to make it sit up nice and tight. And now we're going to add our drop. So to add our drop, we're going to use one of our Delica beads. We're going to go into our crystal, just like we've been doing to do the brick stitch. We're going back up through the crystal, or sorry, back up through the Delica bead, letting that hang down there. And you can tell kind of which way the thread came out. If it came out in front of the form, you're going to go behind the form. And then we're going to go back into, so I'm going to turn it to the back so you can see a little bit better. I'm going back into that bead that my thread was originally coming out of. Back into the wire guard. And we're going to reinforce on the opposite side. Going back down through the wire guard, down through that last bead, bead number 27. Adding one of my Delica beads. This time I'm already at the back, so I'll just stay to the back. I'm going to go through my crystal from the front, or from the back, I should say, towards the front, back up through that Delica bead, And then since it's hanging out there on the back, I want to bring my thread and needle to the front. And I'm going back up through bead number 27 and out. That gets 2 strands of my thread and 2 beads connecting my crystal there in the middle. Now that I'm back up through that first bead here, I'm going to do another row of brick stitch along the outer edge. You don't have to do this. You can do it. It's really up to you what you want to make this earring. What we're going to do is a multi-bead brick stitch. So I'm going to add 2 beads here. And to start out, we're going to add a 3rd bead. I'm going to skip over the first bridge thread and we're going to go into the 2nd bridge thread. Now, if you're not familiar with brick stitch, the bridge thread is the thread that connects one bead to the other. So it loops over the top of the bead, connecting the holes vertically. I sew underneath that bridge thread. Those 3 beads lie along the side. And I sew back up into bead number 3. From now on, I'm going to add 2 beads. So I'm adding, instead of my normal 1 bead for brick stitch, I'm adding 2. I go to the next thread bridge right here. So underneath the thread bridge, remember 2 beads on, underneath the thread bridge, and then back up through bead number 2. And we just continue this same thing the whole way along the project. 2 beads go on, go underneath the next bridge thread, connecting those 2 delicas together right there. Sewing underneath the bridge thread, those 2 beads lay. One is going to lay horizontally, and bead number 2 lays vertically that you sew back up through. You can see you're going to do that the whole way along the edge here, adding in that 2 beads in through the, or underneath that bridge thread, back up through bead number 2, and that lies along the edge of the project. From here, we're going the whole way around, and then once we get back down here, we'll use that opportunity to get a 2nd strand of thread back through our, or back to loop around our crystal piece here. As you get done doing that little picot trim brick stitch, you're going to go with your last 3 beads underneath the bridge thread to close it off here. Or sorry, last 2 beads. Getting excited, I added an extra bead there. See if I sew underneath my bridge thread there. Take this bead off. Good for you to see these things also. Okay. That bead is now off. Underneath my bridge thread. Back up to the top through bead number 2. It's a little awkward because it's getting tight there in that space. There we go. And now I'm coming out of bead number 2, or right there along the top. What I'm going to do actually is snake in and pull my thread down towards the project here, down towards bead number 1 right there, right at the wire guard. This is my opportunity to reinforce. We're going to go down through the Delica bead. I'm in the front right now. Through my crystal to get another strand of thread going through there. Flipping it over to the back. I'm going to go back through that Delica bead that's there. Towards the back this time. Up through that starter Delica, as well as around and through the wire guard. As we go around and through the wire guard, then we come out the bottom. I'm already to the back, so I'll just stay on the back side here. Going down that first bead next to your wire guard, around the back, through that Delica bead. And here's just where, if you want to, you can kind of switch it up a little bit. I'm going to go back through from one Delica bead before I loop around. I'm going back through the Delica bead on the opposite side, using a ladder stitch to just go through the bead. Pull those 2 right next to one another. Back down through the bead my thread was originally coming out of. And then around the crystal. All that does is pull those beads right next to one another and they sit nicely. Through the crystal, back to the front of the design, back up through this bead here. And back towards that thread. And then guess what? I'm on the same side as my starter thread. So I'm going to go back through that original bead here towards the back of the design. I have my 4 strands now around the thread here. Take my 2 thread ends, the one that was originally tied on to the piece, and the thread that I have here, and we're just going to tie our thread ends together. So simple when it ends up in the exact same spot. Also, putting it towards the back and the darker thread, whether or not you're using gray or black, you won't see it. All right. Then I go in with my thread zap or my thread burner, pull up on the edges there near that knot, burn the thread edges off, burn the thread edges down towards the back of the project so you don't see them kind of exposed anywhere. Flip it over, grab your ear wire. Anytime you're at it, opening your ear wire, turn to the side rather than pulling back. Slide on your wire guard and close up your earring. A nice form and a nice circle to use to create your earring that you can hang anything down from the middle of. So if you have a couple other beads from your subscription box, since this is a subscription box kit, you can totally use those too to hang down from the middle, or even hang some fringe from the exterior of your nice earrings. Thanks so much for joining me in these Autumn Aurora earrings. They're really, really fun for fall, just getting into kind of those nicer dark tones. Also great for getting into Christmas. Remember, if you need any materials, want to check out the subscription box, you can always get back to our website in the description in the video here. If you click on that, the show more button, it'll get back to links to our website. If you haven't yet, hit that little subscribe button to this YouTube channel so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Hope you're enjoying this month's kit subscription box, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.